So if you've been keeping an eye on the global markets recently, or even just checking your own retirement dashboard,
Just watching the numbers.
you've likely felt that jarring turbulence. We're talking about some massive volatility.
Huge dips.
Huge dips.
Yeah.
Significant drops in the major indexes, especially in high growth sectors like the NASDAQ, and these really sharp, sudden drops in assets like crypto.
Yeah.
It feels like a massive global liquidation event is underway.
It does. And I think that word liquidation, that is absolutely key, because usually when we see this kind of widespread sell-off, you can sort of point to the usual culprits.
Right, the things we always talk about.
You are.
Inflation, the Fed.
Exactly. Unexpected rate hikes from the Fed, or maybe global recession fears. But what's so fascinating about this particular downturn is that the trigger, it isn't coming from Washington or Brussels.
Not this time.
No. It's a forced, almost mechanical reaction that's being set off by an economic shift in a country that often seems, a bit removed from the day-to-day market drama, Japan.
And that is exactly the mission for this deep dive. We're going straight to the source of this problem, which involves an almost unimaginably large financial instrument, an estimated $20 trillion one, the Japanese Kerry trade. So today we need to understand how this trade became really the invisible engine of global leverage for decades.
For decades.
And why these subtle but completely seismic shifts in Japan's recent monetary policy are now causing a market earthquake that you are feeling in every corner of the investment world.
At its heart, this entire $20 trillion structure, it relies on a single principle: arbitrage,
Right.
but an arbitrage fueled by a cheap currency. The carry trade is just this simple but incredibly powerful act of borrowing money where interest rates are basically nothing, which was Japan, and then investing that money aggressively where the returns are high.
Everywhere else.
Everywhere else. And for 30 years, this strategy was just immensely profitable. But we're at this pivot point now because the success of this whole thing, it relies entirely on one critical variable staying stable. And that stability has just, poof, vanished.
Okay, so let's unpack that foundation first. Let's look at the anatomy of this Japanese carry trade.
Yeah.
I think you need to grasp the sheer size of the profit margin to really understand the scale of the panic we're seeing now.
Yeah, the incentive was massive. The trade itself, at its core, is pretty straightforward leveraging. An investor just identifies a place to borrow money for next to nothing. That's the funding currency.
The yen.
The Japanese yen. And then they find a place to invest it for a high yield. That's the destination, which, historically has been the US dollar, emerging market bonds, high growth tech stocks, you name it.
Let's use some simple math from the source material to really illustrate this. Imagine a big institutional investor. They borrow, say, $100 million worth of yen. For decades, the interest rate in Japan was so low, they might only pay 0.5% interest, 0.5% annually on that loan.
That's the key right there. Ultra cheap money. So they take that $100 million and they just plow it into global assets, maybe U.S. corporate bonds or some higher yielding emerging market assets that are kicking off, let's say, 5% a year.
So you're looking at a 5% return while only gets 0.5% to service the loan itself. That's a 4.5% margin.
Yeah, a 4.5% spread.
Earned just by moving money across borders.
Yeah.
And when you apply that simple margin to literally trillions of dollars,
Right.
well, that's the cumulative effect that fueled the bull markets in so many global assets.
And this really is uniquely Japanese. It's not just some generic arbitrage strategy. You have to look at the history here.
Right. Why Japan specifically?
For almost 30 years, Japan's economy was struggling. Stagnation, deflation. So to fight this, the Bank of Japan, they just threw everything at it. Extreme monetary policies, quantitative easing, and, this is the crucial part, they kept short-term rates near zero, sometimes even negative.
Which created the perfect storm for investors, didn't it?
Absolutely. This sustained period of near zero borrowing costs made the yen the undisputed cheapest currency on earth to borrow. It wasn't just a temporary thing. It was a structural feature of the global financial system.
So Japan was, in effect, subsidizing global risk-taking.
They were subsidizing global leverage.
Right.
That's why this carry trade ballooned to $20 trillion. It was essentially guaranteed cheap money fueling high returns.
So that's how they made the money.
Yeah.
Let's shift gears now to the moment the risk finally caught up. Because if it was a guaranteed 4.5% profit, this party would never end.
And this is the catch.
This is the catch, the rising danger.
The risk, and it was always there, is currency fluctuation, specifically the yen strengthening. See, when you borrow in yen, you eventually have to pay it back in yen. If that yen suddenly becomes much more valuable compared to the dollar, Well, the amount of dollars you need to buy that yen back, it increases dramatically.
Let's put some numbers to that. Say I borrowed 100 million yen back when it cost me, I don't know, 700,000 US dollars.
Okay.
But then the yen strengthens. And now it costs me 900,000 US dollars to buy back that same 100 million yen.
Yeah.
I suddenly have to find an extra 200 grand
Out of nowhere.
just to repay the debt, and that's completely separate from how well my stocks did.
Precisely. Your 4.5% investment profit is just instantly wiped out. Or, even worse, it becomes a massive net loss because the debt itself just got way more expensive.
So the big question is, why didn't this happen for 20 years?
Because the Bank of Japan's policies, their explicit goal was to keep the yen relatively weak, or at the very least, highly predictable. They managed the currency.
But that predictability, that stable weakness, it seems to have just ended in 2024. What changed?
Japan is finally starting to see some inflation. A lot of it imported from global sources, but it's there. And that's forcing the Bank of Japan to shift away from its radical, easy money policies.
They're raising rates.
They started lifting short-term interest rates off of zero for the first time in 17 years. And that basically signaled the death knell for cheap money.
But the real panic switch, the thing that turned the unwind from a trickle into a flood, our sources say it wasn't just those short-term rate hikes. There was a critical technical trigger.
Yeah, this is where it gets interesting.
The sudden surge in Japan's 40-year government bond yield. It surged to its highest level since it was even introduced back in 2007, hitting close to 3.75%. Why does a 40-year bond yield matter so much to a carry trader?
This is where we get into the more sophisticated mechanics. Long-dated bonds, like the 40-year, they act as a crucial benchmark.
For who?
For massive institutional players, pension funds, insurance companies, anyone managing huge long-term liabilities. They need stability over decades. So when the yield on that 40-year bond jumps from 3.52% to 3.75% in a really short window, that's not just a slight cost increase. It fundamentally changes the risk-free rate for all their future planning.
I see. So it's not just that borrowing is getting more expensive today. It's that the entire foundation of long-term stability that the carry trade relied on, it's just crumbling. That jump is a massive, very visible red flag.
It's a true paradigm shift. It signals that the Bank of Japan is losing, or maybe consciously releasing, its decades-long grip on controlling the yield curve. And the market sees this jump in the long-term yield and assumes short-term rates have to follow higher eventually.
Which kills the whole premise of the carry trade.
Permanently.
Okay, let's move into the really painful part, the mechanism of the unwind, which you've got to call it the double whammy. How does this yield surge force liquidation so quickly?
The rising Japanese bond yields, they trigger this two-pronged financial attack against any investor who is leveraged up in yen.
So attack number one is the immediate cost, the cost of capital. Japanese rates go up, so your short-term borrowing costs, just the expense of servicing your loan, that goes up too.
Right.
So that 4.5% profit margin we talked about starts to shrink. Maybe it goes to 3%, then 2%.
Yeah.
Then maybe it disappears entirely.
Yeah.
The trade is just not profitable anymore.
Correct. You lose the arbitrage advantage.
Yeah.
But the second prong, this one is far more devastating. It's the currency reaction. Remember, when Japanese yields rise, global investors who want that higher, now attractive 3.75% return, they start flooding into the Japanese bond market.
And to buy those Japanese bonds, they have to first buy massive amounts of yen,
Driving its value up.
which strengthens the currency.
Ah!
Okay, I see it now. This is the mechanism that turns the situation from bad to catastrophic for the carry trader.
Exactly. The investor is caught in this vice. On one hand, their ongoing loan payments are more expensive because of rising rates. And on the other, they have to pay back their original 100 million yen loan using a yen that is now significantly stronger and therefore much more expensive to buy. The debt they took out just exploded in real-world dollar value.
The whole strategy just reverses on them. It forces them to deleverage and fast.
And this is happening at a massive scale. We are talking about liquidating positions tied to a $20 trillion trade. You can't just quietly slip out the back door on a position that big.
No.
No, you can't. This situation triggers forced asset sales. These investors have these massive, urgent, strengthening yen liabilities they have to meet. They don't have the yen just sitting around, so they have to sell off their global assets to get the cash.
To get the cash, to then buy the expensive yen to pay back the loan.
That's the chain reaction.
Which brings us directly to the global market fallout. How does this panic in Tokyo translate directly into selling pressure on, say, the NASDAQ and on Bitcoin.
It's a very clean and very painful transmission mechanism. The forced selling has a specific order to it.
A pecking order.
Yeah. Investors who are frantically trying to meet margin calls or cover these ballooning debt payments, they sell what's easiest to liquidate. And often, they sell their biggest winners, the assets that also carry the most leverage and risk.
So they're selling the champions of the cheap money era.
Precisely. These are the investors who poured borrowed yen into high-growth U.S. tech stocks, emerging market equities, and this is critical, high-risk, high-return assets like cryptocurrency. So to get the dollars or euros they need, they must first sell those assets en masse.
And then they immediately take those dollar proceeds and buy the strengthening yen.
That's the two-step process that creates the pressure.
That explains the market moves we've seen so perfectly. The selling pressure isn't necessarily fundamental fear about tech company earnings reports. It's a technical, mechanical need for cash that's being funneled directly into the yen market.
And the data from last week bears this out completely. When those Japanese yields really started to climb, the Nasdaq tumbled 2.2% in a single day, hit its lowest close in weeks.
The crypto.
Crypto got hit even harder. It acts as this highly leveraged, high-velocity asset for global capital. So Bitcoin saw these really steep drops right alongside the stock market. The high correlation here. It just reveals the source of the pressure. It's the carry trade unwinding.
This really clarifies that central connection for you, the listener. These rising Japanese yields are not some obscure theoretical change on a chart. They're actively forcing a massive, systematic liquidation of highly leveraged global positions. And that is directly resulting in the stock market and crypto volatility we are all experiencing right now.
The stability of Japanese monetary policy was, for decades, underpinning trillions of dollars in global asset prices.
And that's over.
It looks that way. If we connect this all back, the core insight here is that for so long, global asset prices were inflated by the consistent, predictable availability of cheap Japanese yen. That decades-old strategy is now reversing, and rapidly. This entire event is just a stark reminder of how interconnected and how profoundly leveraged global finance truly is.
The environment that created this $20 trillion monster has fundamentally changed.
And now the monster's trying to find the nearest exit all at the same time.
That is a monumental shift. And it leaves us with a truly provocative thought to close on here. If just the initial fear, just the early stages of the yen strengthening and rates rising, if that forced this huge wave of asset sales, what happens if this isn't a temporary blip?
Yeah, what's the next phase?
What if the Bank of Japan continues its slow, steady climb out of zero rates and the yen continues its march toward long-term strength? How might the persistent unwinding of this massive carry trade fundamentally change the long-term risk profiles of all those global assets that were, for decades, built on a foundation of cheap Japanese money? Something for you to consider as you watch those global markets try to find their footing in what might be a post-carry trade world.